Hola. This is going to be worth your time and your energy. Come into this video with an open mind, because if you're stubborn and you're set in your ways, this might not be for you. But for those that want to just take their training into a different level, it is my thought and my experience that this exercise will take your legs to a whole nother your entire strength of your body. And the biggest thing is that it's functional. As a movement specialist in the gym, and I used to make these same mistakes. The lack of real body movement is just, it's not there. And I want you to look at this exercise and think, is this functional? And in my opinion, yes, it is. So taking a barbell and putting it on your back, how functional is that? If I got 600 pounds on my spine, don't you think that there's going to be some compressive forces in there? Do you think that that's good for the spine? If we are compressing the spine, when those spaces in the spine and between your vertebrae, they need space in order to communicate and for the nerves to work properly. When the nerves are getting crushed, that is not good. And we want to make sure that any joint is healthy and strong. It's our spine, and that we're doing the least amount of damage to it. Let's take your legs to another galaxy. In real life, you bend down, you pick something up with your hands. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's two. Sometimes it's on the outside of your body, sometimes on the inside. And we should train all aspects of that. Now, I want to make it clear that this exercise, if not progressed smartly, if you neglect your core and your core is not strong, you will tear your shit up. There's no doubt about it. But there's no doubt in my mind, though, that if this exercise is done properly and is progressed properly and done correctly, it will strengthen. It will take you to, like I said, another galaxy. It is proven that our grip strength, when measured, shows the overall strength of our entire body. There's too much research to deny that. Let's tie that grip strength in with it. Let's tie our arms with that, our upper body with it. I always joke with people and say, unless you're like an Aboriginal or a native from back in the day, the only time you're going to put a stick on your back is if you're fetching water from a stream and you're balancing two jugs of water, right? Now, I would say front squats. I would not, even strong athletes that need to progress, why not grab a dumbbell that's 200 pounds, whatever. You're going to see what I'm talking about here in just a second. But when I do with single arm, I want to do it with single arm, because when I lift with single arm, with just one arm, I have got a ton of core in it. I don't need to side plank, because when I got 120 pounds pulling it up on the right side, my left side better be engaged fully, or I'm going to flex to that side. Flexion rotation is what damages the spine. And so you have to make sure that you are not flexing. And so I'm going to give you some cues to make sure that, because if you're flexing and you just got one hand, guaranteed you're probably going to do some rotation in there too, and you're going to do more harm than good. But let's kill 20 birds with one stone and we don't have to side plank, we don't get our abs in there, we're getting our low back in there, we're getting our upper body. we're increasing our grip strength, which is crucial. And then we're seeing too, if there's a weakness between one leg or the other, because we're gonna switch sides, right? Now my stance, let's get into this, right? The biggest thing when I'm doing this is I wanna make sure that I'm in extension, that I'm not flexed and rotating. I want my spine in extension. I want the space between my spine, okay? Now I've properly warmed up. I've spent 20 minutes before. I don't just go grab a 120 and start going to town. I've activated my glutes. I've opened my hips up, my ankles, so that I can get the dorsiflexion needed to sit me down properly. Now I want you to, when you see this exercise, just say in your mind, is this natural? Was this something that I'm going to do day to day compared to a back squat? And would I get a crap load more benefits if I did this rather than back squat? And in my opinion, yes. And if you look at the research, there's strong evidence behind it. Again, I can't emphasize that if this is done wrongly, you're going to tear yourself up. Okay? So I want to make sure so outside of my body, it's going to be the hardest for my body. So I'm going to do that first before I tax my core. Now, I wouldn't want to do a bunch of planks and stuff and tax my core before I'm doing this, or I'm going to end up, my core is going to be fatigued and it's not going to, or anything. I want to do this exercise in the beginning of my workout, and then I could do the other things like that later on, right? Somebody's ringing my phone. Anyways, let's get to it. So the setup is I want to get as close to this dumbbell as I can. When I worked for UPS loading trucks, the first thing they did was show us a video and say, do not bend and pick things up like this. Get as close that you can, right? Get as close as you can to what you need to lift, and then lift it with your legs, not your back, okay? So, on the outside, I'm starting first. On the right side. Now my stance is going to be, I don't want a parallel stance. I want, and it's, you have more stability when you're in like a fighting stance. Right? So this would be parallel, if you guys can see me. A fighting stance with more stability is kind of diagonal, kind of 45 degrees. Right? At least my foot, if not a foot and a half, right? And then I want to make sure I'm weighting evenly, that both legs have the same amount of weight to each side, right? Because you might, when you set up on this, you might, if you're not paying attention to it, have all your weight on one side and the other. And you don't want that. You want, right? You're going to be stronger having two instead of one. Two bases of support. It's like a triangle. And in keto, they talk about that tripod. Like we're the strongest, the triangle is the strongest foundational stuff. And if you've read about keto, you know what I'm talking about. So my setup is here. Now what I do, right? And so I actually go up on my toe on this foot a little bit, because what it does is it allows me not to bend more. So when I'm flat-footed, I feel like sometimes I might have to bend a little bit more to pick that up. So it's just going to allow me to stand up straight. Now, I always just talk about this with my athletes. Before I even lift this, I'm going to lift up with my legs a little bit, just kind of pick the weight up just a little bit off, maybe a centimeter off the ground. And so do it like 3 times, right? So that I know I'm sitting up in it. You'll notice there'll be a difference. If I hit it from the side, let me see if I can show you. So if I don't do that, a lot of times I'll be bent. Now watch, so if I kind of pick it up a little bit, now I'm where I want to be, right? And then I'm going to take a huge, huge breath in. I want that downward pressure, that breath, right, to keep my spine. And I don't
I gotta tighten, I'm gonna brace my core, tighten my ass up, both ass cheeks, because the last thing I need to do is side bend, right? So, a little more out to get more in.
And I want to be careful, again, when I do not want to take this to fatigue. Do not fatigue this muscle. Don't go to failure with this. I would say keep 3 reps in the tank with it. Now what I want to do, and I can even set myself up more of in a natural squat or parallel position, is get the inside of it. And then check both sides, right? And then to my left, don't fatigue it. And then I might notice, I don't have the grip strength in my left. And you find the weaknesses. I'm having a little bit more trouble on my left. My right side, the one I did after a car accident, I've lost nerve damage. So that's my weak side. That's the side I want to focus my attention on. Think about this exercise. So much better. And then when I go heavy, right? Do the legs. And just think about all the different muscles I'm hitting in there, especially core in that. I don't have to sit there and side plank. Now those are foundational stuff and stuff we should do to get to this point. But think of all the different stuff, right? Because you never in real life do I have 40 pounds on this side, 40 on this. 8 bags of groceries, keys, right? And then make sure you're doing inside, outside. And then when I go heavy with my legs, now I might drop it down to about maybe 40 pounds lighter, and now I can tie in a pull and a push, right? Pull, push. On the inside, right? Now I don't have to separate, pull, push. I'm getting what the body needs. Most people neglect those transitions too when they're working out, right? They're just doing pull or push. And those transition from a pull to a push, that's where those transitions are huge. And if you neglect them, then in real life, that's where you will struggle. You think that you're strong there, but then in real life, when you actually got to bend down and pick something up and you're helping your dad or your grandfather, you're not there. And so I hope this changes your thought process. Really start examining when you go to the gym, the neglect of movement, the neglect of those transitions, of tying the legs in, of guys who make. Girls, all they do is legs, right? They never forget legs. Guys, they always forget legs. That's where all your strength and power comes from. It all ties into your legs. In real life, if I was pushing something, it's going to be here. If I was pulling something, my legs do all the work. Don't neglect them. I made all the same mistakes, guys. One of my favorite quotes: a smart man learns from his mistakes. A wise man learns from others' mistakes, the mistakes of others. And I was one of them. I had to learn the hard way. Not no more though, right? And I hope this helps, guys. Make sure you progress this properly. Be safe. Last thing I want to do is hurt you. I want to help you. And with that being said, namaste.